What if I told you that the quickest way to ruin your life is not because of one big mistake, but because of small, everyday choices that quietly pile up over time? These choices weaken your confidence, keep you stuck in the same routines, and stop you from making real progress. And the scariest part is that most people don't even realize what's happening until it's too late. A study found that more than 75% of people feel stuck in their personal and professional lives, not because they lack the ability to succeed, but because they fall into patterns that slowly drain their potential. But there is a good news. Once you understand what's really holding you back, you can take control and start turning things around. In this video, we will talk about 4 specific patterns that ruin lives, and most importantly, how to break free from them so you can move forward. Let's start with the most subtle yet dangerous trap: comfort. Comfort feels good, it feels safe, but that's exactly why it's so destructive. A research published in the Psychological Science introduces the concept of the status quo bias. This is a psychological tendency where humans naturally stick to familiar routines or environments even when those routines are no longer beneficial. It's a survivor instinct rooted in our evolution. Our ancestors favored predictability because unfamiliar situations could mean danger. For example, imagine that you've been in the same job for years, even though it is no longer challenging or exciting for you. Or maybe you stay in a toxic relationship because it feels safer than starting over. Your brain convinces you that staying put is safer than taking a risk, even when staying in the same place is harming your growth. Think about your goals. Whether it's starting a business, learning a new skill, or making a life-changing decision, what's holding you back? If you're waiting for the perfect moment or telling yourself you need more time to prepare, you're stuck in the comfort zone. The reality is that comfort is not the same as happiness or fulfillment. Every time you choose the familiar over the unknown, you're reinforcing this bias. Your brain learns to fear change even when that change could lead to something better. It's like a muscle that weakens every time it's not used. Over time, the ability to step outside of your comfort zone becomes harder and harder. And what makes this even more dangerous is that staying comfortable doesn't just stall your growth, it creates a deeper form of stress. When we suppress our natural need for growth and progress, it leaves us feeling unfulfilled, restless, and stuck. That's why people often say that I feel like I'm just existing and not living. So here's how you can break free from this trap. Act immediately. When you get an idea or opportunity, act on it right away. Don't wait or overthink. The longer you hesitate, the easier it becomes to let excuses creep in. Build your courage muscle. Start small, challenge yourself daily by doing something slightly uncomfortable, like speaking up in meetings, initiating conversations, or applying for something outside of your comfort zone. Reframe discomfort. Instead of fearing challenges, see them as opportunities to grow. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? Most times the answer is not as scary as it seems. Remember, comfort feels safe, but growth lies outside of it. The life you want is not in your comfort zone, it's in the uncomfortable actions that you're avoiding. Let's move to the second silent destroyer of potential: comparison. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded with curated highlights of other people's lives. Social media, for all its benefits, has created an endless cycle of comparison. You scroll through your feed and see somebody who's more successful, more fit, and seemingly happier, and without even realizing it, you start measuring your own life against theirs. This is not just emotionally exhausting, it's scientifically proven to harm your mental well-being. Research shows that when you compare yourself to others, your brain activates the same regions associated with physical pain. This explains why comparison doesn't just make you feel bad, it drains your energy and leaves you stuck in a loop of self-doubt. The real danger lies in how comparison warps your perception of reality. Social media only shows the highlights and not the struggles behind the scenes. When you compare your everyday life to somebody else's curated moments, you're setting yourself up for unrealistic expectations and inevitable disappointment. But it gets worse. The comparison also changes how you make decisions. When your brain is focused on matching or outdoing others, it releases cortisol, the stress hormone. Under this stress, you're more likely to chase trends, Abandon your own unique path and make choices based on short-term validation rather than long-term growth. Suppose that you're trying to run a race, but instead of focusing on your own lane, you're constantly looking at others. You lose your rhythm, stumble, and end up falling further behind. Not because you're incapable, but because you're distracted by everybody else's pace. So how do you escape this trap? Set your own metrics for success. Instead of using others as a benchmark, define clear personal goals for yourself. What does success mean to you? When you focus on your own journey, you regain control over your progress. Practice gratitude for your growth. Each day, take a moment to acknowledge your small wins and milestones. Celebrating your own progress releases dopamine, the same feel-good chemical that social media hijacks, but now it's working for you. Limit social media exposure. Your brain needs breaks from the constant bombardment of other people's achievements. Set specific time for checking social media and avoid mindless scrolling. Use that time to invest in your own growth. Focus on effort over outcomes. Instead of worrying about how you measure up to others, focus on how much effort you are putting into your goals. The progress you make by showing up consistently will always outweigh short-term comparisons. The key takeaway here is that comparison robs you of the joy and fulfillment that come from your own unique journey. The only person you should compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. Next up, let's talk about a trap that we all fall into, the illusion of time. When you wake up, it's easy to think that I have the whole day ahead of me, or when you procrastinate, you tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow. But this is one of the most dangerous tricks that your brain plays on you. While the clock moves at the same speed for everyone, research shows that your mental clock changes speed depending on what you're doing. For example, watching Netflix for 3 hours can feel just like 30 minutes, but 5 minutes of focused work can feel like forever. This distorted perception creates two problems. During high energy hours, you convince yourself that I can do this later, but when the low energy hours hit you, you think, I'm too tired now, I'll do it tomorrow. And the cycle repeats. What makes this worse is how these delays compound over time. When you think about tomorrow, your brain sees it as a fresh start with endless hours. But tomorrow arrives with the same challenges, energy levels, and 24 hours as today. This creates an endless cycle where important tasks keep getting pushed into a future that never arrives. Each postponed task doesn't disappear, it turns into mental clutter. Neuroscientists call this cognitive load, where the accumulation of delayed decisions makes every new task feel heavier. This is why people often feel overwhelmed even though they haven't started anything. So here's how to break free from the illusion of time. Set clear deadlines. Instead of saying I'll do it later, commit to a specific time. Turn later into a concrete window like 3 or 3:30. When time feels finite, you're more likely to take action. Work during your peak energy hours. Identify the times of the day when you feel most focused and use those for your hardest tasks. Don't waste those golden hours on low priority work like emails or scrolling. Start small. If a task feels overwhelming, just commit to 5 minutes. Often, starting is the hardest part, and once you begin, momentum naturally carries you forward. Understand the value of time. Time is not unlimited, and tomorrow doesn't guarantee better conditions. Treat the hours you have today as your most valuable asset. Time is one of the few things in life that you can't get back. The sooner you stop letting it slip away, the sooner you can start building the life you want. Now, we live in a world where information is everywhere. You have access to thousands of books, podcasts, online courses, and YouTube videos, all claiming to help you improve your life. But here's the hard truth. Information alone doesn't create change. In fact, too much information can trap you. Psychologists call it analysis paralysis, where you're so busy learning that you never actually do anything. You get stuck in a cycle of consuming content, taking notes, and making plans, but never putting those plans into action. For example, let's say you want to start a business. You check every YouTube channel on entrepreneurship, binge read startup books, and even enroll in a course. 6 months later, you learned a lot, but haven't taken the first step toward building your business. This is not just wasting time, it's also mentally exhausting. Psychologists have found that overloading your brain with too much information creates decision fatigue, where you feel overwhelmed by the choices and end up doing nothing at all. No matter how much you learn, you won't see results until you take action. Knowledge is only potential power. It becomes valuable only when you apply it. So here's how to break free from this trap. Apply the 20-minute rule. Instead of spending hours researching, spend just 20 minutes learning the basics and then take immediate action. Real learning happens when you apply what you learned, not when you perfect your know. Track your progress and not perfection. Focus on small, actionable steps that move you forward. It's not about being flawless, it's about being consistent. Just aim to improve by 1% every single day. Limit consumption and increase execution. Be selective about what you consume. Instead of drowning in resources, pick one course, one book, or one video and commit to applying its lessons before moving on to the next. Remember, knowledge without action is just potential. Action is what turns potential into results. So there you have it, the 4 silent destroyers that could be holding you back from the life you want. The trap of comfort, the comparison cycle, the illusion of time, and information without action. The good news is that each of these can be fixed starting today. So here's a quick recap. Break free from comfort by taking small, courageous actions daily. Stop comparing and focus on your own path and progress. Treat time as a limited resource and act now instead of waiting for the perfect moment. And turn information into action by starting small and prioritizing progress over perfection. If this video gave you something to think about, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe for more practical insights like this. And share this video with someone who might need to hear these as well. You never know whose life it could change. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.